6 o'clock, I'd like to call our meeting to order if we could, please. Would there be any additions or deletions to the agenda for tonight? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
A motion support, last chance. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried and we have an agenda. Thank you. Roll call. Has that been completed? It has. We have roll. Next is Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone please rise and join us in the pledge tonight. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the March 18, 2024 and special meeting and the March 26, 2024 regular meeting. Your pleasure.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion support. Are there any comments or questions on either of those? Hearing none, all those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. Thank you. Moving down to hearings, we are to consider a motion to set a public hearing for April 23, 2024 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the agenda allows to discuss a proposed application to the State of Michigan Clean Water State Revolving Fund to seek a low-interest loan to fund improvements to the wastewater treatment plant. Your pleasure on setting a hearing.
Move to set hearing.
Support.
We have interest. Any comments or questions? We've covered it before. Did you want to give any background?
No, this is our second step in the process, the application process to apply for the SRF funds. Almost exactly like we did for the drinking water, DW. This is clean water, wastewater treatment plant. And we can talk a little bit about it in the newsletter, just very briefly, so we have some information there.
Okay, thank you. Last chance for questions on this topic? Hearing none, all those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. And we have set the hearing. Thank you. Next, we are to consider a motion to set a public hearing for Tuesday, May 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the agenda will allow to consider a special assessment roll for the unpaid charges for noxious weed cutting, sidewalk replacement, and utility billing charges for 2023.
Move to set the public hearing.
Support.
Motion support. Any background on this?
This is our yearly process that we do to recoup those fees and costs that haven't been paid.
Okay. Last chance for questions. Hearing none, all those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried and we have set another hearing. Moving down to request for purchase. We are to consider a resolution to approve a request for purchase to Library Design Associates for shelving and end panels for the installation in the children's book section at the Alma Public Library, and also to authorize the library director to execute any required documentation.
Move to approve. Support.
That motion support.
Well, this is what we talked about last
We did.
meeting. We're going to get some new children's shelving. We've never had actual children's shelving there. This was made possible by a generous donation from an estate to the library.
Okay, very generous donation, yes.
Very generous.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried and we have a resolution there. So congratulations to Lori and team.
Thank you.
Good news. Now, under resolutions, first up, we are to consider a proposed resolution proclaiming April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Alma.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion support. Background?
It's Arbor Day, planting
Once again.
trees. So we talked about a lot of trees lately, this week and such. I know Dave's crew is working on a couple plantings that we'll do a news release for and just make the public know that we're planting some trees in honor of the Arbor Day.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. We have a resolution for Arbor Day. Okay. Did we ever figure out how many years in a row we've done this?
Well, we're Tree City USA for a total of, I think it was 38 years. And that is based upon how many trees we have per population and square foot of city. So we have a lot of trees in town.
Yes,
So
we do.
We have a lot of trees.
Tree maintenance.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, we are considering a resolution declaring noxious weeds a public hazard and a nuisance pursuant to Section 22-62 and 22-63 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Alma, and that all affected property owners will be notified to abate such nuisances.
Move to approve.
Support. Have a motion and support.
Again, this is
Any further fair warning of the citizens of Alma?
Yep, this is the beginning of the year. Your lawns will be started probably next week maybe to start to mow. How we go about it, so you'll get one notice letter to warn you and remind you of the ordinance, and after that it'll be citations. This is the front end of the public hearing that you set previously in the agenda. On the front end, this is a nuisance, and by this ordinance, we must keep it under 10 inches.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on this item?
What are we charging to cut somebody's lawn?
Total $125.
That's the fee.
That's the fee. And then
Plus the charges for the service.
Plus whatever we'll be going out for bid here soon for the mowing services, so whatever they charge per square
Okay.
for mowing, the fee is $125 on top of it.
Okay.
For us, that will be what we recoup.
And that's every time that we have to mow, right?
Yes.
So it gets expensive.
Yep, it's $125 plus.
If you're having us be your lawn service.
Right,
It's
it's not
very expensive.
not a good plan.
Yeah.
It was.
And I'm assuming, this is just an assumption, we got a really good cost last time. I don't think it's gonna be that way this time for the mowing, so the mowing costs will go up. So it's best that you just hire someone yourself or do it yourself, for
We
sure.
had some challenges with the service last year, too.
Yes, we
didn't
did. Yep. And that's why I'm saying, to get a reliable service, it's definitely gonna be going up.
Yep, okay. All right, any more questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Moving to 3, consideration of a resolution to authorize the use of North State Street from the north side of Superior Street to Downey Street as needed for the Alma Farm Market each Saturday from 6:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. beginning June 1st, 2024 and running through October 26th, 2024.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion, support. More background?
Yep, this is the second year we're gonna try on State Streets. Still trying to work out some kind of signage down there to help folks, identify that's where we're gonna be holding that. Lizette Smith is I can't think of her enough. She's taking up the mantle as the volunteer for the farmer's market, and from what she has told me, we have a meeting next week with the potential vendors. We should be well above what we normally see there, so if you do see her, say thank you. She will be out there and about throughout the summer. This will be different this year. We're just doing Saturdays like we did last year, but we won't start until June, and we're done probably most likely be mid-October, but we are getting them through the end of October just in case the weather's a little bit better. So.
Thank you. Comments or questions? And just for clarity, the farm market is actually a event sponsored by the Alma Action
Yes.
Division of the Chamber of Commerce.
That is correct. Yes.
It's not technically a city function. They just are using the city streets.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So with that, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving down, we'll have a consideration of a resolution to approve a request from Ernest Cushman to hold an art fair in Scotland Yard Park on August 3rd, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Move to approve. Support.
We have motion and support.
Ernest was here last meeting, kind of introduced himself to the commission. He had submitted the information to me, so we're all good there. And the direction that he gave at the last meeting was that we'll reserve that for him and the fair, and we'll not charge a fee for the use of that. And from my understanding, the vendors, he's looking to do everything free for the vendors and for those attending the fair. So.
Can I hear this is to be juried? Is it to be juried? It is to be juried too? Okay.
Not looking for the next Picasso, I just want to keep all the,
Okay.
you know.
No, that's nice, thank you.
Sounds like a good event.
Sorry.
Okay, are there any more comments or questions on the art fair? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried, and we have scheduled a fair, so great.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to agreements. We are to consider a resolution to approve an agreement letter with Point Broadband, which will extend their existing Metro permit by an additional 5 years, which will then be ending April 9th, 2029, and to authorize the city manager to execute the letter for extension. Your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Support.
Okay,
Yep, this is pretty standard for the telecommunications that are within our rights of way. The Metro Act really guides that process. Point Broadband is carrying through what used to be CASAir. They have purchased that, so they're carrying on their Metro permit. This one is under a bilateral, which is every 5 years. That's why there's an extension only until the April 9th of 2029. But unless the city commissioner of the city would decide that it's not working out, that we need to add some sort of other restrictions, or if we're having issues with them not taking care of rights away when they do work or things, that we need to go back and revisit that, then that's the time we would do that. But other than that, there hasn't been any issues that have come to light with working with them. So this will continue on for another 5 years.
okay, thank you. Last chance for comments or questions. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. Moving down, reports of officers, boards, and committees. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any of the items from within the section for individual discussion and vote. Before us tonight, we have the Alma Transit Center March 2024 report, the Board of Review meeting minutes of March 5, 2024, the Board of Review meeting minutes of March 19, 20, and 21 of 2024, the Alma Police Department March 2024 report, and the city manager's reports. Your pleasure.
Move we receive 1 through 4.
Okay, motion support. Any last chance for comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. And that motion is carried. We've received the 4 reports. Any interest in the city manager's report?
Move to receive the city manager's report.
Be short. Support.
Okay, we have motion support.
All right, it'll be a short one tonight, everyone. The first item, part of the drinking water SRF, is our water tower repainting and then refurbishing and new controls as part of the project. We are going to put up, take the logo that's, or the block letters that are currently off of there. We have currently the block letters that we provided in your packet with our city logo, and at the bottom of it, Curtis has put it up there, with the tagline, "Make it yours," which is on our website. That is what we have into Dixon Engineering, the engineer on the water plant itself. So it's a little bit different of a font than we currently have up there. We don't have the logo up there at this time, or our tagline. Believe it or not, they do paint this up on it's not a stencil or anything like that. It's a painted, or I'm sorry, it's not a sticker or anything like that. They use stencils and vinyl, and they paint those, they paint that on there. So we just wanted to put that out there, and if there's any thoughts from the commission, if that looks good, I mean, it's
It's fine.
it's fine, okay.
In my
Like I said,
opinion.
it's kind of a 3, it will do the whole, basically circumference once it meets. Right now, you really only see it from kind of the highway, and then kind of as you come up to Jerome Road, it will be all around the time you put the 2 Almas on and then the logo, so it'll be on the whole thing, so. So, yeah, that'll be a lot cleaner, I hope.
Just question,
yeah, sure.
they're gonna actually paint the symbol thing too?
Yes.
The logo,
The
okay.
logo will be-
And then will it, I mean, do they think it's gonna be legible to read the "Make It Yours" from the ground? Is that?
It'll be, well, it won't be necessarily like, if you're coming up the highway, that will, you'll see the Alma before you'll see that for sure. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't take up any more room on the tower. It doesn't cost us anything more to have that put on it, so. Yeah. Just put it on there.
Just gotta ask.
Yeah, no, it's nice. If it saved us a few bucks, we would, just not put it on there, but it doesn't cost us
They'd charge you
anything
for it,
extra.
okay.
Yeah, so there's an extra fee for that.
So they've already built it into the price.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I just heard, right?
Yep, and then they gave you the option, if it's just Alma, and then the Make It Yours. it really didn't change that much with just putting the logo on there either, so.
Okay.
Cool. But yeah, that stuff will be going to bid very, very soon as part of the overall drinking water SRF. Clean water SRF, we set the public hearing for earlier in the agenda. We did include a summary memo for the project plan. That full project plan is available on the wastewater treatment page of the city website. If someone is so interested to click, you can click on that and read the whole 16 pages of the plan that will be submitted to the state of Michigan as part of our application. That is basically the plan we'll be reviewing at our next meeting, but the draft summary that's in there obviously is just a quick and dirty breakdown. And I'm not going to read that to the commission because obviously we can all read it. But what we'll be asking for is $16 million if we can do, as the beginning request, $16 million with a 20% loan forgiveness is what we're hoping for. If we don't get that, we're hoping that we'll have $13 million with the no loan forgiveness, and the project will move accordingly. But if we don't get any of the clean water funding, then we'll be back to kind of discuss what we will do with the monies that we can do, because we do have some bonds that are coming off here in 2025 from the wastewater plant that we'd be able to reinvest, and most likely be the clarifiers, but we'll get more in detail in there. But fingers crossed, submitting this application. We were told with drinking water that we weren't going to get anything, and then we were only told we were going to get X, and then we did get the whole application. So we're hoping that something at least comes through on this also. Downtown trees, I just put that in your packet, but that got started on Monday. I think the crew is doing a heck of a job with how we decided to schedule that out. We're doing them in the mornings, so we cause the least havoc as possible to take them down in a safe manner. We are through up to State Street as of today, so we'll start that. Woodworth. So we go Woodworth to State tomorrow. So we'll be done by Thursday with everything for removals for this first phase, which is 22 trees, and then in the fall we'll be replacing 10 of those with 3 species of trees that we've discussed, and then we'll carry on next year and the year after. Michigan Avenue, detour around there in front of Avalon, that project's going well. Concrete curb and things went in today. So knock on wood that in the next 3 weeks or so, as soon as the asphalt plant's open, that we'll be ready for asphalt, and we can throw that down, and we'll be well ahead of Highland Festival that's open. So, and is all I have for this evening for you, because we have a presentation tonight for budget, so we'll have it short tonight.
Questions from the city manager's report? Hearing none. All those in favor of receipt, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed would be no. That is carried, and we have received your report then. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, we have a presentation by Susan Hunter, who is representing the Friends of the Elmo Public Library regarding the accomplishments over the last year, and to inform the community of the upcoming open house at the Elmo Public Library. Mrs. Hunter, would you please
I will.
come forward?
With my prompt. I'm Susan Hunter, representing the Elmo Library Friends. Thank you for putting us on the agenda. We just wanted to let you know what we've done in the past year and what we're planning for this year. So, though it's not the traditional season for it, I bring you tidings of great joy. We had a fantastic year last year. Our first big event was the open house, and 350 people attended. And that was way, way more than we were expecting, but we were really, really happy. And it was a lot of fun, and it was so much fun that we're doing it again this year, and I'll have more about that in a minute. Right after the open house, we started getting ready for our first ever used book sale, and we had no idea what to expect with that, but we collected thousands of books, DVDs, CDs, games, puzzles, and the patron counter at the library tallied 2,323 visits during the sale, which was a lot. And best of all, we raised almost $9,000 for the library. In October, we sponsored a guided walking tour of Riverside Cemetery. Local actors took on the role of residents from the early days of Alma and told their stories of their lives and their deaths. That was really well received, and we raised $1,000, a little bit more than $1,000 from that. In November, we spent a little money and we helped support the holiday photo program at the library. That's been done for several years, and it's an annual event that gives people an opportunity to get a professional holiday photo taken for free at the library. And they decorate the fireplace, and it's a really nice event. And 213 adults and 231 kids took part in that. And we started 2024 with about $10,000 in our bank account, which is pretty amazing considering we started with $0 in our bank account in 2023. But our purpose is not to build up that bank balance, it's to support the library. And to that end, we purchased 6 new chairs for the library, wingback chairs that will 2 on either side of the fireplace and 2 in the genealogy area. And those are replacing chairs that have been there for more than 20 years, which are showing a lot of wear. And the ones by the fireplace, they're very comfortable. They're sort of like a hammock, you sit back in it. But holy cow, when you try to get out of it, it's like us and some of the older patrons, and I include myself among them, we'll be really glad to be able to get out of a chair without assistance at the library. So those will be coming in 5 or 6 weeks. They're special ordered. And our first big event this year is our open house on Wednesday, April 24th from 3:30 to 6. And we've got a lot of events planned. The theme is looking back, looking forward. And one highlight is a slideshow of the history of the Alma Library, which will have narration by a man who knows the library and its history very well. Brian Dinwiddie will be doing that. And we have a second, you do know that, don't you, Brian? And a second presentation, we've got Joe Butcher and Jim Goodspeed. Joe is a local farmer who is a collector of Republic trucks, and he restores them, and Jim is a local historian. And for those who don't know, in the early part of the 20th century, the Republic Truck Company employed over 2,000 people in Alma and made Alma the fastest growing city in Michigan. So let's get one of those again, okay? Just an idea. But Jim is also going to have a truck there for people that can see and maybe even climb around on it a little bit. We're also going to have, the open house is for all ages, so we're going to have a story time by Marla Drury, and Marla is something of a rock star among the 5 and under set, so we're anxious to see that. But the thing that's going to be really cool is we've got enlarged photos of librarians from the past reading story time stories. And so while Marla is reading, there will be photos behind her of, some of you may remember Miss Mildred Smith reading, and Tina Leonard, and I'm not sure, who's the other librarian, Lori, that really, is there more than 2 people in the library photos?
No,
Just the 2.
You got them. Marla.
Yeah.
The 3 that we have were Marla, Tina Leonard, and Miss Smith.
Yeah, so Miss Smith is from my childhood at the library, so I'm looking forward to that. And then we're going to have raffles for gift certificates and a really nice gift basket and lots of other fun activities. Now, if anyone worries that, wow, it's 3:30 to 6, how am I going to get dinner, get home and go this, I don't think I can go. Don't worry. You can have dinner on us because we will have free hot dogs, chips, and drinks for everybody, so there's really no excuse not to come. And I brought some flyers for you, which my assistant, Gary Rayburn, will be distributing.
I knew I was good for something.
And also, we have these signs some of you may have seen around town, and these are available at the library. They are free, and you can pick them up at the circulation desk, and it's just a way of celebrating the library as we lead up to the open house. Now, if you would like a sign, but you can't get to the library, I can offer you white glove delivery service, courtesy of one of our library friends. They're going to pick up your sign, deliver it to your house, put it in your yard, and maybe do some yard work for you.
Oh, well, I didn't know
So,
that.
you know, if you really want to. So following the open house, which I hope everyone will come to, the next thing we'll be doing is prepping again for the book sale. So anyone is invited to, begged to bring your gently used books, games, puzzles, DVDs, CDs to the library because it was like a really, really good fundraiser for us. And so I'm sure you all want to support that. Time to clean out your bookshelves anyways and make room for more. In October, we're planning to host a candidates night for the City Commission. We did that 2 years ago, and about 100 people came, and we got a lot of positive feedback on it because it was the only venue where they could actually, listen to the people that were running for office. And it will be structured in a very, not a town hall format. The questions are prepared in advance and given to the candidates, and then there's a moderator that will go through the questions, and then there'll be like a half hour after for people to mingle and talk. So it was I think a well-received event. And then in November, we have a program that we're really excited about. Rick Mixter is a Michigan filmmaker, diver, historian, former broadcaster, and author. And he's written a book on the Edmund Fitzgerald. He's actually gone down on one of the dives to see it. And he is coming to talk about the Edmund Fitzgerald on the 10th of November, which is the 49th anniversary of the sinking of the ship. And one of our library friends heard him speak at another library and said he was fantastic. And so we'll have lots more about that coming out later. But I'd just like to thank you for your continuing support of one of the best resources that our city has to bring our community together, the Elma Public Library. And I'd also like to invite anyone interested to join our very friendly library friends. There's no initiation. You just show up at the meeting and you're in. So thank you very much. And I hope to see you all at the next Elma Library Friends meeting, the fourth Thursday of the month, except for this month. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are you open to taking any questions if anybody has any on the council?
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody does, but are there any questions?
At the library about your life choices and...
Probably a lot of questions.
Only privately about the life choices.
Thank you very much. And congratulations and good luck with everything. Congratulations for everything you've done and good luck with everything you've got planned.
Thank you.
Very ambitious group, no doubt. Okay, we had a motion for this, correct? We did not, I'm sorry.
Move to receive.
So we do have a motion to receive. Now, are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. We received your report. Again, thank you. Next is presentation of the fiscal year 2025 annual city budget.
Move to receive. Support.
Close the doors. So don't get away. Looks like Curtis, you're going to take the lead.
Technology plays
Good choice.
Oh, yeah. That's,
Delegation.
we all have our strengths, and like I said, this is, Chris has put a lot of time and effort into this, and so has the staff of trying to, get to a balanced budget. But I'll turn it over.
When it comes to numbers,
Yeah.
I'm a guy. So. All right, we are, can't believe it, we're already at, it seems like we literally just did this, but we are at budget season once again for fiscal year 2025 this time. So I want to thank everybody. I know everyone came out to see me in this presentation. Really appreciate it. Brian said he couldn't wait for it, so I'm going to hope to really put on a good show for you. So the presentation that was in the packet was significantly longer than what I'm going to go over tonight. I'm going to hit this at a very, very high level, really look at just the charts and trends, and then if there are any questions, we can always dive down deeper, but I didn't feel like I felt felt like the last couple of years, we've really went pretty in-depth, and I think we've kind of got a handle on a lot of the in-depth stuff, so we're gonna look at it high level, and we can always drill down if we need to, so.
Sounds like a plan.
And we are doing this a meeting earlier than we have in the last 2 years, so we do have time if the commission sees something or would like to discuss more, or us to research some more, we do have extra time to do that.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good sign to have extra
Right.
time.
Always nice to be a little earlier, so. Just a reminder, there are some funds that we approve at the commission level and other funds that are approved at other boards. So here are the funds that are approved at the commission level. The only thing that's changed this year is we do have a new fund for our Parks and Recreation Fund that is grant funded that will be new this year. So other than that, no changes to the funds that we approve. Here are the ones that we do not approve, either because they're pass-through entity or they're approved by a separate board. So. Starting with the revenue, millages, obviously our most revenue comes from millages, so only change from fiscal year 2024 to 2025 is going to be actually a reduction. So this is the last year for the library debt. The final bond payment is actually due May of 2025, so this will be the last year that it'll be on the taxes. Because it's the last year, we have to go through and do a calculation and basically try to determine how much more we need, because we don't want to undersell it, because then we wouldn't be able to afford the bond payment. We don't want to oversell it, because that would be overcharging our taxpayers. This isn't quite a final number yet, so we'll have to wait until all of our March quarter review adjustments and everything else is in, but it looks like we'll see about a 0.3 mil reduction in the library debt this year. And then this will be the last year, so in 2026, that millage will be coming off the books for all the taxpayers, so. Good news there. General fund revenue, here are kind of our basic general fund categories. About just over 50% of the general fund revenue comes from taxes. About just under 30% comes from intergovernmental revenue, which is mostly state revenue that is passed through to us. So these percentages are very similar to what they've been in years past. There's not usually a ton of fluctuation in the percentages unless there's a significant increase in revenue from basically a one-time source. So as our kind of typical baseline revenue, this is kind of where the general fund revenue comes in, and we are projecting just shy of $6 million in revenue for the general fund this year. As far as how that goes throughout the years, we can see that there's been other than kind of a little bit of a spike in 23, kind of a consistent trend of growing revenue. We actually had a spike in 2023, kind of a combination of a couple of one-time revenue sources that came in, mostly from grants that came in to kind of spike that. If you kind of take those couple one-time things out, you can see a pretty consistent trend over the last 4 or 5 years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Again, from a breakdown from each categories, we can kind of see that taxes and intergovernmental revenue especially are at 5-year highs, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about growing trends. But other than that, most of our services have been fairly consistent year over year. Other revenue is obviously the hardest to predict, so that's a lot of those one-time things that really we don't budget for, that just happen to come in, that we say thank you when we take it, but kind of hard to budget for those one-time things. So you'll see that it's budgeted lower. Historically, it kind of tends to come in higher because it's something that we're just not aware of. But other than that, everything else fairly either steady or growing consistently. From as far as our other funds, revenue sources, again, see in most cases we see kind of either steady or slight trends. Water and wastewater kind of are the biggest spikes, and those are because of the rate increases. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Everything else has been, again, for the most part, fairly consistent. Straight millage, we can see, has been up thanks to the extra mill that started getting generated in this current fiscal year. Major streets is higher this year because we are getting the money from the federal?
No, state.
State for to do Pine Avenue next year. So we get a spike there for that kind of once in every 6 or so years revenue source. So other than that, again, fairly consistent across the board. We've talked about utility rates. We've talked about utility rates, seems like a lot over the last year and a half. Again, just a reminder for the commission, the plan that we set in place last year, and for the community, what to expect. If typical households are at a 5/8 inch meter, so these are based on 5/8 inch meters. There are some with 1 inch meters, so I put that number down there as well. But we are expecting about an $18.50 increase in the readiness to serve fee across the board. That is with the $10.50 increase in water, the $7.50 in sewer, and a small increase in the revenues for the Granger contract going up. So Base rates will be, with this new plan next year, effective July 1st, base rates will be about $97 if you have a 5/8 inch meter. And then, so everybody should be seeing about 18 inch. The usage, the only usage changes is we have a slight increase in the water usage of 60 cents per 1,000 gallons. Again, the average household uses less than 4,000 gallons is what we're seeing, so you see another maybe $2 on top of that. So most people will probably, most standard households will probably see another about $20 increase this year. Good news is this is the last major hike we're looking at for the next few years. So once we get through this year, I know it's not going to be an easy year again, but this is really that kind of last ditch effort to get us to that, get us to rates where we can afford some of these capitals that we're going to talk about later. And we're going to see why those rates are so important later when we look at the water and wastewater fund from a capital standpoint.
Just a reminder, Cruz, we did talk about this over our 5-year plan, and instead of doing these two increases all on 1 year last year, we decided to break the water and the sewer out over this 2-year period. So it was either rip it all off at the first year or break it out this over the 2 years. And like Chris said, this is our last big jump. And if we would have been doing these small increases throughout the past, we wouldn't be here now. But sorry, Chris.
No, good clarification. So jumping to the expenditures, we made some assumptions for the expenditures that we used across the board. Some of these may or may not change. We'll talk about those too. But here are just some of the kind of basics that we're looking at across the board. Starting with the general fund, I'm actually going to skip all the way through these and just look at the totals, and again, we can jump back once we, but I think there's a couple of charts here at the end that are really going to explain a lot of those details in more depth. So our general fund capital that we have currently budgeted for is $518,000, and there's the list there. I'm not going to read them all, but these are all things that we've talked about through goal setting. These are things that have been on almost all of them have been on our 5-year plans that we've been working on for the last few years. So we're hoping to, depending on what else happens with the budget, we're hoping to get as many of these things done in the next year. So that's our list there. So we do have, this is a general fund balanced budget with just over 5.9 million in revenue and 5.9 million in expenditures. The breakdown as far as, there's two ways really we look at expenditures. We look at it in breaking it down between personnel, non-personnel, and capital, and kind of seeing what buckets those fall in, and then we look at it by department. Generally speaking, and this is, again, a generality, everything is going to fluctuate year to year, but when we start looking at the budget, when Eric and I sit down, we really like to target for the general fund a 60-30-10 split. That seems to be something that is of best practice. I mean, every community is different, so everyone has some fluctuation. But as far as just a standard baseline, if you can keep your personnel costs at about 60% of your general fund, your operating costs at about 30%, and your capital costs about 10%, that is considered a healthy baseline. So that is where we usually start the budget. Again, every year, depending on how certain things, needs, timing, and stuff like that, we always get it. If we're within that 5% fluctuation in any individual category, we're usually pretty happy. This year, as you can see, we're a little higher than that standard on personnel, but not by much. We've actually seen savings the last couple of years in operation costs. Departments in the general fund, really across the board, especially in the general fund, have done a really good job at keeping operational costs to a really standard, cost for everything with inflation just going up, but we've done a really good job of seeing departments when they see increases somewhere, trying to see where else they can cut to kind of keep that balanced and keep that number under that 30% to allow us to do more capital and allow us to still be able to afford to do COLAs and everything for our personnel. So just commend the department heads for doing that. And operating non-personnel costs can really sometimes feel like they overtake our budget, and we've done a really good job at keeping those costs really, I think, done a really good job over the last few years keeping those costs manageable.
So Curtis, if I could interrupt you for a second. What I'm hearing is, I think it was 2 years ago, we instituted a new accounting system where the department heads were going to be held much more accountable for their own budgets rather than kind of not in the past. They've just kind of let it ride or whatever. And I know it also involved, giving more authority and more, your role stepped back, or your position was not riding herd over everything that had done in the past. So what I'm hearing then is that that's been successful. The department heads are embracing this, and you're getting all your reports properly, and everything's going through.
Yes.
So
that has been a great change. I've had every single department head here I've had so many conversations with. They really understand their budget. They take ownership of their budget. Nothing has came up in the last year and a half that has surprised me, because anything that comes up that's unexpected, I know about before it ever hits the financial statement, which is all I've ever asked for. So the communication's been excellent. The understanding of their finances has been excellent. So, and I think that's shown how we've had balanced budgets the last couple of years, and actually the last couple of years of even seeing where we came in under what our budgeted expected budget is.
So you achieved your goals with that system.
That's been great.
Congratulations to not only you, but all the department heads that have embraced this and taken ownership of it, so good job.
And sometimes it's, I know it's a little monotonous, we bring those amendments to this board, but that's been the other big part of it is not waiting till the end of the year to do all of the.
The audit cleanup, that's always a mess at the end of the year that we avoided for now, a couple of years.
Well, and you can see it in the audit results and the audit costs, that by doing it throughout the year, we've saved in time, money, and headache when it comes to audit time, because things are being done throughout the year. So audit time now is just hand it over and let them do their job, so.
Sounds easy.
It's been great.
You know, it's
For job security, I should tell you it's a lot harder than that. I'm oversimplifying it, but no, it's been going very well.
No, we've been around a while, a lot of us, we know it's, we know the difference, we can tell.
You remember it.
Yeah.
So the other way to look at it is just looking at it by the departments. Here is the net cost of each general fund department, by percentage of the total budget. Again, you can see not a lot of fluctuation year over year. Every once in a while we see some things spike for certain individual things, or because this does, the big thing that really causes the spikes is capital. Like transportation this year is up because that includes sidewalks and streetlights, both of which we have capital projects budgeted for this year. Recreation and culture, the big spike, one of the reasons for the big spike in 2022 was that's where where the expenses for the bathrooms came in. So really, when you look at, this can sometimes be a little misleading based on capital. When you look at operationally, we're not really making big swings at things. Things are staying fairly stable year over year for each department. So, which is always a good thing, but just as kind of always as a general reminder, whenever we want to look to do more things or other things in areas, these are always balanced budgets. So in order to increase one thing, you have to decrease another thing. So that's kind of what we always balance to make sure we're not giving too much to one thing or taking too much away from another thing. Kind of, these are giving us these stable, really stable lines to kind of look at, which is something that, again, because of some of the changes and turnover and stuff like that, we've never really felt like we had that comfortable baseline that we can look at. We finally have a couple years worth of data that we feel like we can start looking at historical data and really trusting the historical data, which has been very helpful when it comes to the budget. So, big questions in the general fund. Again, for this year specifically, right now we have a balanced budget. I say right now because there are some things still out in the air, both from the revenue and the expenditure side. One great thing about doing it early is we're doing it early. One negative thing is we don't have all the information that we might have if we were doing this 3 weeks later. So just keeping in mind that while it's balanced now, some of these numbers are still projection numbers. We're still doing a lot of in-depth looking at things, so the things could change. But as we go forward, a couple things just to kind of keep in mind for this year and future budgets. One of the big ones I want to touch on is the revenue growth, and the key word there is sustainability. And I don't mean this to scare or to put a negative light on anything, but just as a reality and just to talk about it, I just wanted to bring up the fact that we are seeing historical highs in a couple of our revenue sources. We talked about property taxes are 51% of our budget. Property taxes are at their highest 2-year growth since Proposal A. Our interest rates are at the highest interest rates that we've gotten since 2006. Our state revenue went up more than it's gone up in at least 15 years. So it's great. I love that we're getting the extra revenue. I caution to make a lot of long-term decisions thinking that this is going to continue. Could it? Absolutely. I'm not up here to tell you that I can forecast the future. If so, I probably would not be here. I can tell you that historically speaking, everything that has went up has eventually came down, and we are at historic peaks right now. So just kind of keeping that in mind as we look forward is, does it plateau? Does it come down? Do we still see stable increases for a couple of years? Those are just things to kind of keep in mind that we're probably riding historical highs right now that I'm willing to bet on are not going to stay there. We keep talking about capital projects a lot. Capital projects are getting more and more expensive to do, obviously. How are we making sure that we can maintain that 10% of our budget going to capital each year so we can keep investing back into our capital into our community? talk about vacant positions or just positions in general, and the next slide will kind of touch on that too, is that a couple of years ago when we were talking about budget, when we were having some budget deficits and talking about things that we can do to get that balanced budget, we made some personnel cuts. It's been a couple of years, just kind of keeping in mind, are these things that we're still hoping to fill these positions eventually? Are these positions that we've decided that we maybe don't need or can fill in different ways? Keeping in mind that we're already at that 60% level for personnel costs, so any increase to personnel is going to have to come from somewhere, but we do have a few vacant positions out there, and how and is it even a priority to be looking at how we're going to fill those in the next couple of years? So just another kind of thing to think about. And another topic we bring up a lot, cemetery. Again, I don't really have an answer for you other than cemetery costs are continuing to rise. We are currently putting together a rate study for the revenue side, at least, of the cemetery to see how we are comparing to other municipalities. I'm hoping to have that either for the next meeting or the meeting after, but definitely before we approve the budget, to see if maybe fees are something that we can, I mean, again, we haven't done the study yet. Maybe we're already higher than our peers. I don't know, but if it's not, is that something we look at to try to generate a little more revenue? If we can't offset costs, maybe we can at least generate a little more revenue to help out with the cemetery. But that's just a cost that seems to be growing at a higher rate than most of our other departments, and I really don't know. I don't have a really good answer why, other than it costs to provide the level of service that we're providing. So those are the kind of the major things as we talk about the rest of this year and going into next year that we should be keeping in mind for the general fund. Talked about the personnel vacancies, just going back to pre-COVID numbers. When I took the last full year before COVID, finance is actually down 3 full-time staff. We are getting one of those back July 1st. We have extended the offer and it has been accepted for our intern last year, Colton, has agreed to come on with us full-time and replace one of our vacant positions. So we were able to find money in the budget and got him to stick around. So we're looking forward to having Colton there. So once we hit July 1st, we'll be down to 2 full-time vacancies in the finance department. The city manager's old position for planning, zoning, and economic development is still vacant. We still have 1 full-time police officer in the police department, and then these aren't general fund, but still everything kind of has an effect. We're down a full-time position at the library still, at water distribution, and at public works. So these are all positions that we would have had not just 5 years ago that are currently sitting vacant, that again, at some point, we have the discussion of where these rank in the priority list as far as wanting to fill them, or are we getting by with, have we made enough ground without them? Are we okay with that? But
we are actively trying to find more seasonals, and that's some of our issue with cemetery is every time we have a regular employee out there, it's costing us twice as much than a seasonal to do it. So if you do know of anybody, we've tried, so we have some, we're looking at flexibility, a lot more flexible scheduling. We've talked about some a bonus at the end of the year if you stay X number of hours into the season. So we're trying some different things. A lot
Is
of
there an age requirement on that?
18. And it's really a lot of mowing, a lot of string trimming. I mean, that's where we usually have them. And when the leafing season starts, they're on the leafer. And eventually when we replace our equipment, we won't need as many people because we'll have more automated equipment. But until that time, that's kind of where we're at. So if you do know somebody that's looking for even a summer job, we'll take them. It doesn't have to be from now until the end of October. We'll take them and fill them in where we can. So, and then from our, like Curtis says here, we're trying to make sure that we stick with what we've talked about from a sustainability standpoint with personnel, and not dipping into fund balance for personnel or operational costs, only using our fund balance for capital type projects, having that ready in case a grant or something else, anything else comes up that we can invest in a capital that lasts 20, 30 years instead of using it up in 1 year. So it's getting a little more challenging. And right now I know everyone's, trying to do the best to fill in those gaps, but part of the balancing of the budget and doing it as folks have pulled together, and we did fill this one position here in the finance department because we all know where we were a couple of years ago. I don't want us to fall back again, making sure that we're getting everything done correctly and keeping on top of helping everybody make sure that we're submitting things like we're supposed to. So that's why we did fill that one position there, but it's been a challenge, but everyone's pulled together, and the cemetery is going to be a big topic, because that is one of our fastest growing general fund users right now. And other than finding some seasonals and raising some fees and rates, I don't know how we kind of slow that down. It will never be caught up, but slow it down.
Promises made long ago are still need to be fulfilled.
Yes, yeah.
The trouble.
Yep.
Absolutely. So moving on to our other funds, again, we're going to kind of blitz these pretty fast. Major streets, we have an increase this year because of Pine Avenue. We're also hoping that if funds allow, we are planning for when we do the West Center and North State Street projects, we are also going to do the road for those as well. So couple of major street projects coming down the road are coming down the board. These are just the other ones, street improvement millage, obviously, because we're doing all of them in 1 year. Here are the list of street projects. We have them all budgeted for this year. We do know realistically it's going to take us 2 years to do, but theoretically we'll have the signed contract in hand for this budget year. So lots of streets getting done. So for those of you who are wondering about what we're doing with the streets, we get that comment probably as much as any other comment. Over the next couple of years, you see there's going to be quite the list. So a lot of construction, a lot of good work going to be done. And these also tie in. Almost all of these will have a water, and most of them will also have a sewer component. We'll talk about that a little bit when we get to those funds too. Parks and Rec, again, brand new budget this year. So the majority of this is still kind of air. We have not yet filled our position. We're still kind of working on getting the final grant execution and working out those final details. I actually spoke with the grant administrator yesterday. We're still working out the final details of that, but that looks like that should be buttoned up here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll be able to kind of go a little bit more into detail once we know a little more details on that. DDA, the next phase for as far as capital this year, the tree removal and replacement, we are hoping to do, as the city manager already mentioned, we're doing the phase 1 removal this spring. In the fall, we're going to do the replacement of phase 1, and then phase 2 we're hoping to do next spring as well. So this upcoming budget year will have basically the end of phase 1 plus phase 2 in it. So hope to get that buttoned up in our 3-year plan.
And again, that wasn't anything that's coming from general fund. That's a donation that was made. So there's nothing coming out of anybody's departments or funds for that.
But that 60,000 was just this year, or just this
Just upcoming budget year.
Budget year, yeah.
Yep.
Coming budget year. Yep, just want to make sure that folks know we're not just, I'm spending money on taking trees down.
No, it's not.
It's a donation
Yep.
specifically for this, so.
Yep, exactly. Library, just wanted to mention, because I know this has been a hot topic over the last couple of years, that the library budget, from an operational standpoint, probably the healthiest it's been in at least 10 years. There's been some decisions made at the library that have really helped get this operationally balanced and still being able to provide the level of service that they've always had, if not more. So the only thing, as far as a long-term thing we talk about, is that we are still not funding depreciation with it. So while it's operationally healthy, like I said, as healthy as it's been, there's still the concern capital-wise of when the roof needs replaced, when a major capital comes up, they don't have the savings built back up for that yet. They are growing it steadily. The last 3 years have seen two years have seen an increase, and we're projecting one this year as well, into the fund balance to have that rainy day fund. But like I said, from an operational standpoint, very, very healthy. Capital is still the area where we continue to look at what will we do when those projects come due. So, which we think we have a few more years, talking with Jim and Dave and the department. We know that the roof is going to be on the agenda, but we're probably another few years out, so we have some time, but that's going to be an expensive project that's not going to be able to just be done in a 1-year budget. We're going to have to figure out a plan for that. So,
Chris, on that, I mean, because the debt is going to be paid off next year.
yep.
So after that, what room do we have to increase the operating millage? I mean, is there a possibility to swap some of that over to help with a sinking fund for the roof and
It would have to be.
all that, air conditioning, whatever?
It is my understanding that it have to be voted on. So I believe that the rule, and don't quote me on this, but I believe the rule is that the library can have up to 2 mills. 1 mill can be decided strictly at the commission level, and then up to another mill can be voted on. The thing that there's been some question on, and I've gotten mixed opinions on, so if it's something we want to look into, we'd have to look into more, is I don't know if the half a mil that goes towards the county library that comes back to us, if that counts against the two or not. So I don't know if we have another one that we could go, or if we only have another half we could go. But I do know we at least have the half, because I just don't know if they consider, if that 2 mil cap, if they would consider that half a mil as part of that cap, or if that's considered a separate thing, because it's technically goes to the county before it comes to us. But we have at least a half a mil that we could go, but it would have to be, I believe it would have to be voted on by the voters.
Okay. And I guess, well, we can get more into that later, but thank you.
State Street, again, just kind of operationally keeping steady. It's not really generating money, it's not costing us money, it's pretty well staying where, other than I actually do believe this year we're partially funding depreciation. We're not fully funding depreciation, but we're partially funding it. That's another one of those that down the road, eventually, the conversations are going to have to have the buildings there, whether it's the Prospect building and demoing that, whether it's doing some upgrades to the State Street Plaza building. As far as big capital, again, operationally, for the most part, pretty steady, not generating money, not costing money, kind of just net neutral. But there are, at some point, there are some major capitals that are coming down the road that we'll have to make a decision of what route we want to go there. But again, we're probably looking at a couple years down the road, but just want to get that, plant that seed to start thinking about now. Transit, operationally, you see it's actually decreased a little bit. We've talked about last year how we were able to lower the local millage. Also, the funding for transit at the federal level is going down. Really, the last couple of years, it continues to go down a little bit. We're hoping that we're going to see that plateau, and we're going to kind of have a better baseline. Once we know exactly what we're going to be getting from there, we'll have to relook at the millage. Right now, we are still able to maintain a balanced budget without funding depreciation, with keeping the millage at that 0.8. And again, I feel comfortable in this fund. Usually I don't feel comfortable not funding depreciation. Transit's kind of a special exception because two things. One, most of their capital historically has been funded through grants. So the importance to have that fund balance there for a major capital need isn't as high as some of our other departments that can't really count on that. Plus, we've built up a pretty healthy fund balance in transit so that they have a pretty healthy rainy day fund for at least, if something went wrong, it wouldn't be an immediate emergency. So that's why I'm more comfortable with this fund not funding depreciation, and we're able to, at the rate that we're at least stay operationally balanced. Wastewater, lots of projects here, another good conversation. One of the reasons I say this is a good conversation is that we've been talking a lot about rates and why we need to increase rates of what we do. Well, this is our capital budget that we're looking at this year is about $4.3 million for wastewater. And while that's a big number already, keep in mind that we've already approved in the last budget year a $2 million project. So between last year, that's the north of Washington that we need to do before we can do Pine Avenue. So between 2 years, we're looking at $6 million for the projects, and that doesn't include anything other than the $200,000 at the bottom, doesn't include anything actually at the plant. So the $16 million project that we're looking at doing with the SRF funding, that is all plant improvements. So we have $6 million over 2 years to do wastewater related projects that doesn't even touch all of the plant upgrades we need. So this is a result of a couple of things. One thing, it's great that we got the funding on the water side for the SRF, which again, very thankful for, helps us a lot on the water side. The negative of that is now you got to find a way to either do the sewer at the same time or not do the sewer, which is not something I would recommend, because then you're tearing up the road again when you have to do the sewer eventually. So now all of a sudden, instead of doing these sewer projects over a 6-year stretch, we got to basically come up with in a year and a half how to do this. We are talking with our bond counsel about the possibility of bonding this portion of the sewer projects as well, to be able to spread that cost over a few years and be able to give us a little bit more flexibility so that we don't have to fund that all up front. It's not saying that we're committed to doing that either way, but we're at least looking at it to make sure that we have that as an option going forward. So A lot of great projects, a lot of projects that need done, a lot of projects that have been put off. So very glad that we're doing it, but for people wondering why we're having these rate increases, we're looking at $4 million worth of projects and it's barely scratching the surface of what we actually need to do. So this is where your money is going. All right, water side, same thing. This is all, I feel like we've talked about this for a year and a half now. These are all the projects that are related to the SRF project. We're not actually planning any capital projects that aren't part of the SRF loan. So the 14.9 million SRF loan is all of the projects we're doing on the water side, which is all of the water main projects. I think there's a total of 9 water main projects there, plus the tank, plus the meter replacement and lead service line replacements. So again, we're going to be starting all these projects in this upcoming fiscal year. We know realistically it's going to take us at least 2 fiscal years to complete them all, but we have to be completed by fall of 2026. So between when the money becomes available, which is going to be, I believe, late August, and fall of 26, we will be getting all of these projects completed. Refuse. Again, starting to see some steady increases in this. I think this is another result of where in the past we've had some more help with seasonals. When we don't have seasonals, we have to use full-time people, helps our costs. This fund is not a balance budget. This one is actually using about $70,000 worth of fund balance. This fund has the fund balance to absorb that for another couple of years. We do have, as part of that 5-year plan, an increase in this fund, I believe 2 years from now, to try to get this back to an operation neutral balanced budget. Again, we have the fund balance right now, and to not put even more on the ratepayers, we're trying to give a break as long as we can on this in this fund. So keeping steady, doing the best we can to keep costs down, to try to keep that rate increase when we do need it as manageable as possible.
We get our new truck yet?
No.
No, we're still waiting on that.
Yeah.
Never mind. No.
I wish. So, you know, as long as it comes in before the old one breaks down somewhere, I'll be happy. But no, it's getting.
Until Thursday?
I think the last time we heard, we were told in the next 4 weeks, but I'm not convinced that it's going to happen.
We were told April, so we're.
Yeah, okay, so, but been told a lot of things, so we'll see when it actually comes in. So capital projects for the public works for equipment replacement. Again, these are all things we've talked about at goal setting. They've been on our 5-year plans. Nothing should be a surprise here. So questions for the other funds, we don't have to go through all of them. A couple of them I do want to hit. I mean, some of them are very similar. How do we afford capital? Where do we fill these vacant positions? One thing I did want to get the commission's opinion on tonight, or to at least think about, we don't need to make the decision tonight, when it comes to the street projects. So kind of same thing we just talked about on the sewer side. We're doing all these projects that we have 6 years of revenue coming in, and we're doing them basically all front loading them in the first year and a half. So we're not going to have the money up front to do these projects. I have talked with the attorney, I've talked with a couple of other people about options that we have. One option we do have is that the general fund can loan the street fund the money to do the project up front, so that we don't have to go externally. At least you're borrowing from yourself as opposed to an external source. There's different options. There's actually, I was kind of surprised, there's actually no set, this is what you'd have to charge. You actually have some flexibility. My recommendation would be, I think that we would only need to borrow the money for 3 years until the millage pays the money back. My recommendation would be that the day we borrow it, we just go out and see what a 3-year treasury is, whatever that rate is. That's what the general fund loans it at, and they pay it back, so that we're paying ourselves as opposed to paying externally. We can go out and bond this project as well. Looking at interest rates right now, you're probably looking at 4%. Again, I personally would rather keep it internal if you're asking my recommendation, but we do have options there, but we will need to figure out how we are going to fund that, and those seem to be the 2 most viable options, is either the general fund funding it or loaning the money, or us going out for a bond. So I guess, like I said, we don't need to make a decision tonight. That's a talking point that we should think about, because that will be a decision we'll need to know by probably
Soon.
fall.
It's coming up. But like we discussed, that's what we want the fund balance for, is for capital. And in this case, we're paying back ourselves. It isn't something, that 4% is gone, it's gone. But it's coming back to us, and we'll have back within 3 years, it will be paid off because the millage will be coming in. So, I mean, I agree with Curtis, after we talked with the attorneys, that loaning it to ourselves would be the best route, but that has to be a commission decision.
Well, you don't have, I assume that you can do it without lowering the fund balance So they impact the ability to bond.
Right.
Whatever bond covenants we have.
Yeah, because technically they'll look at it as, because we'll have the receivable, so it doesn't really affect for future.
As long as they're willing to look at that.
Right, yeah, it does not affect your future borrowing, it doesn't count against your borrowing capabilities later on.
So there's really no risks? Are there any risks we should know about?
I mean, the only risk would be, I guess, if something happened in the general fund and you needed that money, you'd have to go out and bond, then you'd have to go out and bond them. So, but no, there's really no, I mean, the other thing is that if you could get a higher interest rate, if you did the calculation, you could say, we're paying 4%, but we can earn 5% if we keep it in. I mean, there's an interest rate loss possibility, but there's also a possibility you get more, so, and you're taking a gamble on the market, so, at least that, I mean, from a budgetary standpoint, one thing that's nice about that is that you're basically, if you do a 3-year, you have a fixed, you have a fixed interest income for the next 3 years that you're guaranteed to get, so, where, you might get 2% higher, you might get 2% lower if you stay in the market, so.
That's a 3-year, it'll take us 3 years to do it, so you never know where we're gonna be with our, mission class or CDs or CDers or any of those, so.
So, it's kind of you're taking the fixed consistency over the chance to ride the roller coaster, so. But, that's really the only risk you would do from borrowing from yourself. I think the other things that are on here, a lot of them, like I said, we already talked about, with the wastewater plant, obviously, we're hoping to get the SRF loan, we're shooting for that. If we don't get that, that's where we have to kind of come back to the drawing board and figure out how to prioritize and how to afford those projects going forward, because every one of those projects is a need project. There's nothing in there, I've been at the plant, I've talked to them, it's all stuff that is 40 years, if not more, old, that have made it this long, but we can't wait 20 years to replace kind of things. So we'll have to start talking about that prioritization if we don't get it. Like I said, hopefully we get it. We're able to do basically the entire plant that we need to with this grant. So I just hope to get that and not have to worry about it. So we kind of talked about State Street, talked about the library. So I think that's pretty much it for, like I said, for right now. That's all I have. If there's anything that we want to go into more detail on, but I think right now, across the board, like I said, there's some things that are still up in the air that could change some things, but we're on track. I can say we're in a better spot earlier on in the process than we've been since I started doing this. So overall, I can say I'm happy with where we're at. Doesn't mean that we don't have challenges. We have some big challenges, but they're not surprises, and we have the data to be able to actually look at and trust and be able to analyze, and I feel like we'll make those decisions as they come up. So.
Thank you, Curtis. Questions?
Not right now. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Curtis.
Thanks, Curtis.
Thank you, Curtis. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your work and the work of the whole team that I know you get credit for this, but a lot of people had a hand in it, I'm sure.
Big team.
Did we have a motion to accept? We didn't have a motion. I did it twice. Huh? Go ahead. We did have a motion, okay. Okay, so last chance for questions. Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the presentation, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. The motion is carried. Thank you again. Let's see, where am I? Consider a resolution to set a public hearing for May 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. for a review of the proposed fiscal year 2025 Alma City budget and related property tax millage rates. Also to set a special meeting for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024 at 6 p.m. for additional review of the proposed budget if needed. Your pleasure.
Move to set hearing.
Support.
You're going to motion support. Comments, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried and we've set the hearings. Now, we would consider a request from city manager to conduct a closed session, which is permitted under Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15-268, for discussion connected with a collective bargaining agreement negotiations.
Point of order, can we skip around that and do appropriations and commissioner comments and invitation to public first?
We can if you'd like to. We don't have a motion on the table at the time. Is that the motion to
It would
move
be.
the other ones forward? And the expectation is that we're not going to take any action when we come out of closed session as well, correct? So that we don't have people sitting here waiting for us to come out and do something. So, okay. So we have a motion support to change the agenda around a little bit. Any comments or questions? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. The motion is carried. We're moving our agenda. Next would be appropriations. Are there any interest in paying the bills?
Support.
Move and support.
Oh, sorry, I said motion.
There we go.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion support. Any comments on the bills? Questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes, yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion is carried and we paid the bills. You made it again, Curtis. Commissioner comments. Lori, do you want to start us off tonight?
Yeah, great job, Curtis, on that whole thing. That was less painful than I thought it would be. And to the library, and the Friends of the Library. Very, very impressive report. Very impressed.
Michelle?
Thank you to the staff for all their hard work on the budget. Again, the library, it's exciting to see the parking lot full when you drive by. And then congratulations to the team that put together the Panther Project to get turf for our students. They started that this week, so that's exciting. And don't forget to see Willy Wonka. There, I got it, remembered it this time. Thank you.
Drew?
Yeah, congratulations, Curtis, on that presentation. I really appreciated that. And all the friends of the library coming out tonight. Great to see. I do already have my son. So. Thank you.
Hey, from those.
Can I jump back?
Oh, sure.
How do people get a hold of you to be a part of your art festival?
I honestly haven't put anything together. I just wanted to get something.
Okay, all right.
before I got too crazy, but I
Yeah,
can definitely
it's going to
get
be very
out
exciting,
there.
so just
I
go
appreciate
one
that. Thank you.
step out there, so, sorry.
No,
I meant to
that's
ask.
a good idea to get permission before we schedule something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get something here.
Yeah, we're not used to that.
Okay, Roxanne?
Yes, thanks Curtis and staff. It is so much nicer to just kind of be relaxed and walk through this planning than the terror that some previous years caused. So thank you. I know it's not easy even though you make it look easy. So thank you. And I love our library and our friends, and happy National Library Month. And I think today is Happy National Library Employees Day. So love all of our employees and friends, and just thank you for everything. And my sign is proudly displayed in my front yard. Thank you.
Jamie?
And just to echo the sentiment, Curtis, I think it's a relief and it's encouraging to see forward planning and thinking instead of trying to retroactively fix things. It's nice to be able to look ahead and see some of these projects and actually build and develop plans for these to make our jobs easier, to make Eric's jobs easier, and really everyone that's so thank you.
Okay, Roger?
Same. Curtis, I've spoken this before. You know my feelings on it. It's a pleasure to sit through these, as it has not been in years past. So congratulations to everybody involved in that. And the library is so cool to see things that are just going on like that. They're just so neat. Brian, I have a copy of the old videotape that was made for the expansion program for the library. Unfortunately, it's on VHS.
Yep, I have two of them. They're on VHS too.
Okay, all right, okay.
And there may be one that's been updated, but yeah, we still haven't, and they work, so.
Okay, I don't have anything to play.
So this is it, it has something to play it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's all.
Cool. Sarah?
Just the presentation that was given here, the full presentation will be online for the public to see. And if you do have questions, please email us, give us a call. Be happy to answer what we can. As we mentioned, also the clean water SRF, that whole plan is on the wastewater treatment plant page. You can read through that. As Curtis mentioned during the presentation, and we did last year, rates have increased and they're going to increase again, is because of these projects that have to be done. it's sad that the can has stopped now. Things have been kicked, and it's here now. Not just us. It's across the state of Michigan for both water and wastewater projects across the state. That's why our drinking water was very competitive, and the clean water project is going to be very competitive too for the funding, because we're all in the same boat. So thank you for everyone's patience, and if you have questions, please reach out to us.
Okay, thank you. And I would echo what's been said before, thanks Curtis and the team, everybody at the staff that's got a hand in that. Friends of the library doing a bang-up job. Just can't say enough good about it. It's just fun to watch. I don't have my sign yet, so I'll have to go get one. And thank you for bringing the art show to town. That sounds like it's going to be a nice success as well, so looking forward to that. Along with everything else, a lot of good things on the agenda for the summer, so it's going to be a good year. With that, I would like to open up the floor to the members of the public. If anyone would like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name and address, and you have up to 5 minutes to share your thoughts. Who would like to be first? Anybody? Nobody wants to talk about the Healthy Pine River, or is there nothing going on Thursday night you want to talk about?
All these people here.
We have a metal drive going on in St. Louis on the 20th at the City Hall in St. Louis. Bring all your old metal, because we had one here last year, and we made $1,000 on it. So we're going to St. Louis this year on the 20th. And we're in their parking lot. Take your metal, we take it out to Padnos, so we're hoping to pick up another $1,000 to use to put in to get the river clean.
Okay, just for future reference, the podium's over there. Appreciate it. Last chance for anybody who'd like to address the commission? Hearing none, we'll, I guess, now go back to our, and again, we're not planning on taking any action when we come out of closed session, so at this point, we'll consider a request from the city manager to conduct a closed session, which is permitted under Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act of MCL 15.268 for discussion in connection with a collective bargaining agreement and negotiations thereof. Your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Support.
Got a motion support. Last chance for comments or questions. Hearing none, we need a roll call vote, I believe.
Not for this particular.
Not for this one?
No.
Okay, we don't need a roll call vote. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, no. Motion's carried, and we will head into closed session. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it, and appreciate all your work.
Thank you.